Have you ever stopped and wondered, what does it truly mean to be rich? We spend our entire lives chasing wealth, believing that bigger houses, luxury cars, and expensive possessions will make us truly happy. But somewhere between our dreams and deadlines, we forget to ask a simple question: are we really living or just earning? This is the story of a man who had everything, and yet, somehow, had nothing. A story that will remind us that true wealth has little to do with money, and everything to do with meaning. Once upon a time, in a city filled with tall buildings and endless traffic, lived a man named Mr. Mera. He was one of the wealthiest businessmen in town, respected, successful, and admired by many. His company was growing fast, his lifestyle was luxurious, and his name often appeared in the local newspaper. But despite all the success, something felt missing. Mr. Mera had a young son named Arjun. He loved his father deeply, but the two rarely spent time together. While Arjun played in the garden, his father was always on business calls. While the boy waited at the dinner table, his father was often stuck in meetings or late-night work. One evening, as Mr. Mera returned home after a long day, he found Arjun sitting quietly on the balcony. The boy looked up and asked softly, "Papa, are we rich?" Mr. Mera smiled. "Of course, my son. We have everything money can buy." But Arjun tilted his head and asked again, "Then why do we never have time to play together?" That question struck Mr. Mera deeply. He tried to smile it off, but something about his son's innocent eyes made him restless. He wanted Arjun to understand the value of what they had, the comfort, the success, the privilege. So, he decided to show his son how fortunate they were compared to others that weekend. He said, "Arjun, let's go on a little trip. I want to show you how poor people live." The boy nodded excitedly. He had never traveled outside the city before. The next morning, they drove for hours past highways, villages, and fields painted in golden sunlight. Finally, they reached a small countryside village where one of Mr. Mera's old employees lived. The man was not rich in money, but he welcomed them with a smile that seemed to come straight from the heart. Their home was simple mud walls, a thatched roof, and a little yard where hens ran freely. A small stream flowed behind the house, its water glistening under the warm sun. The air smelled of earth and fresh food cooking on a wood fire. The man's wife greeted them kindly, offering them water and homemade food served on banana leaves. There were no fancy dishes, no air conditioning, no servants yet. The warmth in that home could melt the coldest heart. As the day passed, Mr. Mera observed the family closely. They laughed easily, shared stories, and worked together in harmony. When the children helped their parents in the field, they sang songs. When they ate, they blessed their food with gratitude. When the evening came, they sat outside under the open sky, watching the stars appear one by one. That night, the village family invited Mr. Mera and Arjun to stay with them. They gave them their best mats to sleep on, even though they didn't have much to spare. Arjun lay on his mat, listening to the soft sounds of crickets and the gentle rustle of the trees. He felt peace, a kind of peace he had never known before. No phones were ringing, no lights were blinding, just silence and stars. Mr. Mera, however, couldn't sleep easily. He kept thinking about how these poor people seemed happier than most of the wealthy ones he knew. They had no cars, no gadgets, no luxury, and yet They smiled more in one day than he did in a month. The next morning they woke up early. The family was already outside, milking cows, feeding animals, and preparing breakfast. Arjun joined the children, laughing as he helped feed the hens and fetch water from the well. Mr. Mehra watched his son smile from a distance. It had been so long since he had seen that pure joy on his face. After breakfast, the family walked them to their car to say goodbye. They waved with genuine warmth, their eyes filled with kindness, not envy. As the car drove away, Arjun looked out of the window, silent but thoughtful. On the way back home, Mr. Mehra smiled to himself. He believed his plan had worked perfectly. His son had seen how tough life could be without money. He expected Arjun to feel lucky and grateful for all that they had. When they reached home, Mr. Mehra turned to his son and asked proudly, "So, my boy, how was our trip? What did you learn from staying with that poor family?" Arjun looked out the window for a moment, then turned and smiled. "Oh, Papa," he said softly, "I learned a lot." Mr. Mehra nodded, waiting for the words. He expected gratitude for their wealth, their comforts, their luxuries. But what came next left him speechless. Mr. Mehra leaned forward with a smile and asked, "So tell me, Arjun, what did you learn from the poor family?" Arjun looked at his father with calm eyes and said, "Papa, I realized something very important. We may have a big house with high walls, but they have open fields that stretch beyond the horizon. We have one dog at home, but they have 4 that guard them and play with their children all day. We have a swimming pool, but they have an endless stream of fresh water flowing right behind their house." Mr. Mehra blinked, unsure of what to say. Arjun continued, "We have bright lights in our garden, but they have millions of stars shining above them every night. We buy our food from stores, but they grow their own, fresh and full of love. We have walls to protect us, but they have friends who protect them. We spend money to be happy, but they are happy without spending anything at all." Mr. Mehra's smile slowly faded. Arjun looked down for a moment, then whispered, "Papa, I never realized how poor we really are." Silence filled the car. The hum of the engine was the only sound between them. For the first time, the man who always had an answer found none. He looked at his son, this small boy who had just shown him a truth greater than any success he had ever achieved. As they drove past the crowded city streets, Mr. Mehra noticed things he had long ignored. Children playing barefoot on the side of the roads, smiling, an old man selling tea laughing with his customers, a mother feeding her baby under a tree peaceful and content. He realized that happiness had never been missing from the world. It had only been missing from his heart. That evening, Mr. Mehra didn't go to his study. He switched off his phone, sat on the floor beside Arjun, and watched cartoons with him for the first time in years. They laughed together, shared snacks, and for once, time didn't feel like something he had to chase. It simply flowed softly, beautifully, just like that little stream behind the village home. Later that night, when Arjun had fallen asleep, Mr. Mehra sat by his window, thinking about everything his son had said. He realized how much of his life he had spent earning, collecting, and chasing while forgetting to live. He had been rich in possessions, but poor in peace. Rich in success, but poor in smiles. Rich in luxury, but poor in love. The next morning, something changed. Mr. Mehra woke up early and went for a walk with his son. They watched the sunrise together. painting the sky in gold. He felt a calm he hadn't known in years. From that day on, Mr. Mara began to live differently. He started coming home early, eating dinner with his family, and listening to their stories. He took weekends off, visited his parents more often, and called his old friends just to ask how they were doing. The meetings were still there, the business still existed, but now life wasn't just about work. It was about moments. One Sunday, as they sat together having breakfast, Arjun asked, "Papa, are we rich again now?" Mr. Mara smiled, placed his hand on his son's head, and said, "Yes, my son. This time we are truly rich." Months passed, and something beautiful happened. The house that once felt empty began to echo with laughter again. The dining table that was once silent was now full of stories and jokes. Even Mr. Mara's employees noticed the change. He was calmer, kinder, and more human than ever before. One of his friends asked him during a business meeting, "What changed, Mara? You seem different." He smiled and replied, "I finally learned the difference between making a living and making a life." That night, he sat by Arjun's bedside and whispered, "You taught me something no school or book ever could. You taught me that true wealth isn't about how much we own, but how much we feel, love, and give." Arjun smiled sleepily and said, "I just showed you what I saw, Papa. The rest you already had inside you." Mr. Mara's eyes filled with tears. He kissed his son's forehead and whispered, "Thank you, my boy." As time went on, Mr. Mara began supporting small schools in rural areas, helping families who couldn't afford education. Not because he wanted fame or recognition, but because he finally understood what it meant to give back. Each time he visited a village, he remembered that one small home by the steamer place that taught him what true richness meant. And maybe that's what life is really about. Not how much we earn, but how deeply we live. Not how many things we have, but how many hearts we touch. True wealth isn't found in bank accounts or business deals. It's found in the quiet moments of love, laughter, and connection. So today, ask yourself, are you truly rich? Do you have peace in your heart, time for your loved ones, and gratitude for what you already have? Because those are the real treasures of life, the ones money can never buy. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you care about. You never know whose perspective it might change. And remember, the richest people aren't those who have the most, but those who need the least. Until next time, stay kind, stay grateful, and keep your heart rich with love, because that is what true wealth really means.